Alright, so this is going to be an oil change for a 2020 Honda CRV. These are the items you'll need. 0W20 oil, frame oil filter. I'll link everything on the bottom. And then a 17 socket along with a oil filter remover. And we're going to get the car up on jacks first. Okay, so this is an all-wheel drive version of the Honda CRV. And I'm going to show you the oil right here. It takes 0W20. This is a US version right here, and then here's where your dipstick is, where the plates are, and your oil will be under this skid plate. So there's going to be a couple of points here for you're going to remove this so that you can get under your oil and your pan. Okay, so after we've removed each of these, we're going to remove the shield. So standard Honda oil filter here, very first oil change, and then we've got the engine oil right here as well. This is straight from the factory with the oil plug right here. So we're going to drain the oil next. Alright, so we've got socket right here with 17. I'm going to crack this loose. And then what I always like to do is I always like to tip the oil pan, and then depending if it's windy outside, you got to be kind of careful. Okay, let's make sure we change out the washer here. We're going to change out the washer with this new one, and we're going to put that back in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put the washer back in along with the brand new crush washer. Right here I usually hand thread it in, and then we're going to go ahead and use that 17mm socket, and I'm going to clean off a little bit of the debris. And what I like to do is, if you don't have a torque wrench, go ahead and hand tighten it, and then go about a third to a quarter over. I'm going to go ahead and link the torque specs for the drain coming up next. So I usually like to clean off and wipe up the areas, and I always double check whenever I finish up my job to make sure that this has been tightened. Alright, the next step is replacing the oil filter. I have an oil filter removal tool, kind of a universal one that I ended up picking up at Walmart. They are just okay. I'd probably use a filter adapter of some sort in the future after I'm done using these up. So as you notice here, these are extremely cheap, and I had to readjust them quite a bit, but I had to go at an angle to get a grip off of the factory oil filter. So as we go through and change the multiple angles on here, I had to go at a slight different angle to jar it loose. But after you've replaced this yourself, just make sure when you reinstall, you do about a quarter turn on your tightening portion. So as we remove this off, there's going to be oil that's going to be inside the oil filter, and also where the valve is inside here. So as you open it up, let a little bit drain out, and then you should be able to drain the rest out. And then our next steps are to prepare the new oil filter. So as we prepare to get this new oil filter, it's important that we lube up the gasket here. So we're going to lube this up and place it back inside here as well. As you noticed, that was a pretty clean area, but I always inspect where the metal is to make sure the gasket didn't fall out. Sometimes that happens on oil filters. The gasket gets stuck upside here. A lot of folks utilize the Fram brand. It has a little bit of grip on there. I change my oil every 6,000.
Nursing staff, I guess you'd call it.
So we're going to fill this up with oil next. This does take 0W20. The engine takes roughly 3.7 quarts. I'm using SuperTech oil because it's pretty cheap. Our Next steps that we're going to utilize on this is we're going to put all of these screws back, and that was pretty much the only biggest pain in the butt was these screws. They came in pretty tight, so I had to use a very specific screwdriver to take care of this. So I hope this helps, and best of luck.